And welcome into the Lady Raider Report for DoubleTSportsNetwork.com alongside Chuck Hines. I'm Jamie Lent. Well, the week that was for the Lady Raiders, now at 10-2 on the season. They were 1-1 last week, coming off a big win on Sunday against Arkansas. Just, Chuck, kind of recap the week and how you felt like it went for the Lady Raiders as they kind of challenged themselves with two games on the road.
So these games that got scheduled with SMU and Arkansas are home and home. So next year, SMU and Arkansas will come here, and Texas Tech will go to Washington State because Washington State came here next year. So you would assume that they'd be around this time of year as well. And really, it was kind of the schedule and how it worked was the timing wasn't necessarily planned to be back-to-back on the road Wednesday, Saturday. It's just how the schedule could work for both teams. So I think with regard to SMU, I think you had opportunities to win the ball game despite the fact that you got out-rebounded. And that was the big thing that was the most disappointing thing was how much you got dominated on the boards, 52-28. And I think just the fact that you had so many open looks, especially early on, you just couldn't get shots to fall. And that was a problem. And then you didn't get to the free throw line. You only got to the free throw line in the second half one time, and that was on an Adley Blacklock missed three and in the corner. And the girl was just right in front of her, and Adley has such a quick release. It's quicker than anybody that you'll probably ever see. It just seems she gets the ball, boom, and she got fouled. She goes to the free throw line, hits 2 of 3, and they were only 9-9 from the free throw line. But that's not why you lost the game. You lost the game because you couldn't get enough second chance points, couldn't get hardly any, and you couldn't get any really open shots or threes to fall for yourself, and you didn't really attack the paint like you probably should have, and which would allow you to get to the free throw line.
Yeah, you lose that game to SMU 61-57, and you can talk all day long about the rebounding part of it and what it means for you when you're giving up 22 offensive rebounds, 21 second chance points, all of those things. But the fact of the matter is it's also keeping you from having the ball on offense when you're not taking care of your business on the glass. And I think the Lady Raiders expect to be able to score more than 57 points in a game. And the shooting was not great, but man, you got to secure defensive rebounds and give yourself a chance at the offensive end. There's just too much of that in that game. And like you mentioned, the 52-28, that's a huge separation.
Jalen Bristow had an outstanding first half. She probably played her best half as a Lady Raider. But then in the second half, they couldn't get her going, and she didn't take a shot. Yeah. And she had 12 points. And I kind of wondered in myself, should she have started that third quarter? Would that have been a little bit different for her? Don't know. If you had played Blacklock a little bit earlier, would you have been able to knock some threes down and get yourself separated a little bit? Would SMU have kind of gone to the corner a little bit? They got themselves in a little bit of foul trouble. But, that was one that was, I think, there for the taking, and you walked away from that game going, hey, we lost a game we should have won.
Yeah, 4-point loss there. Chuck mentioned that Bristow had 12. He also had Jasmine Shavers in double figures with 15, and Bailey Maupin had a strong fourth quarter. She ended up with 11, but it did feel like that was one that you had a really good chance to win and just didn't have enough offensive firepower in that one. On the flip side of that, you do come back on Sunday and get the win, 75-72 at Arkansas. Offensively looked a lot better. The one thing about the SMU game that you did really well is you took care of the basketball.
Yes, absolutely. 10 turnovers.
Yeah, that was the best you'd done really, I think, all season long. That was really good stuff. But against Arkansas, 4 different players in double figures, and that was really nice to see.
Absolutely, and Kyla Freelon got the start in that. And it's funny because Kyla going into that game was your leader in offensive rebounds, despite missing a game, and then only averaging about 15 minutes a ball game. So it kind of makes you wonder, okay, why didn't she play more against SMU? Well, maybe they looked at that and said, okay, she needs to play more. Sure. She didn't start the season healthy in her defense. So I think we're starting to now see the Kyla Freelon that we saw some of last year, especially what we saw Sunday in Fayetteville. And then what you saw with Maya Pete, I mean, that was her best game as a Lady Raider, finally in double figures. She scored in the paint. She had 3 assists, and she really bodied up well, I thought, in the paint. And
gave you a good presence.
Yeah, and was willing to be physical and was willing to bounce off girls and was willing to kind of take a little bit of punishment. And she's had a back issue, and so you have to keep that under consideration as she's kind of been going through that in the off season and then going into the season itself. And so you hope the recovery for her will be good because the turnaround is quick.
Yeah, and she hadn't been much of a factor for you, but 10 points in just 14 minutes. Those are really good minutes that she gave Coach Gerlich on Sunday. And like you mentioned, the 3 assists. I thought there were a couple of those passes late in the game that were huge.
And the other thing, just kind of going back to Wednesday just for a second, I thought Maupin really put you on her back in the fourth quarter in that game. And then she started off with just tenaciousness, from the get-go, from the jump Sunday. And having early success, I think, helped her. They got to the free throw line. They penetrated very well in the second half. Arkansas was more than willing to foul. Arkansas's opponents have been volume shooters, so it's amazing the number of different teams that had really large number of shooting nights against them and going into the game. So they were willing to go up and down the floor, and then you did a good job of defending their threes. Lady Raiders wanted to hold them to 20 3-point attempts. They held them to 21. They got a couple off there at the end, but the point is they never got into a rhythm from a 3-point shooting standpoint. And they had a number of girls who 60% of their shots are threes, 73% of their shots are threes. And so they never could get on a roll because, man, the 3-point shot, it's like the dunk on the men's side. It just energizes a team.
Yeah, no question. So Maupin leads the way on Sunday with 25. Shavers doing her thing like she always does, 18, and then Freelon and Pete each with 10 in the game. So 4 double-figure scores. Felt like a big step in the right direction offensively for the Lady Raiders. Because whether it be the starters or girls coming off the bench, you need some help. I mean, it feels like it's Maupin and it's Shavers every night, but you need other girls to contribute. Yeah,
and with Pete contributing and Freelon contributing, you didn't see as much from Jordan Merritt. She only played 7 minutes in the ball game and didn't score. And so, and then the other person that you didn't really have much of a stat line other than her plus minus was the highest on the team was Danae Fritz. And I thought she really directed the team well. And I was told before the game that you're going to see a different Danae Fritz today. And we did.
Okay.
We saw a different Danae Fritz.
Good, because it feels like that's something that Coach Gerlich really needs to see from her team right now.
Yeah.
She needs a floor general. She needs somebody to kind of get everybody in the right place and get things going. And Maupin's been kind of moved back to that point guard position again, which to me it's probably right now the best for the team. It's not necessarily the best for her scoring, though.
Yeah, and she's not been, shooting very well from beyond the arc. I mean, she's had a very low percentage. And then the person I was surprised not to see Sunday was Bird Martin, the freshman, because she's starting to kind of come on a little bit and hit some outside shots. And, when you have those shots that go in from the outside, it just loosens things up so much on the inside, and it gives them the ability to drive. And the Lady Raiders were 17 of 19 from the free throw line in the second half on Sunday, and that's not generally something that they've done very well this year is shooting free throws. Coach Gerlich would tell you that they're a good shooting team. They just haven't proved it, but even after the game on Sunday, she said, "We're a good shooting team," and they did, and that won the ball game for them.
Yep. So one more non-conference game that'll come up Tuesday this week against Lamar. Lamar is actually a pretty decent team. They're 5-3. On the year, and one of the things that you look at when you notice when you look at their schedule, they also played SMU, common opponent, and they lost by just 2.
Yeah.
And that was at SMU. So this is not going to be one of those easy, pushover games.
No, not an easy education day game. Yeah. No, like what we've seen usually Incarnate Word, your opponent for that. We've already played them. So you'll have 13,000 there at the ball game, which will be awesome, and it's your last non-conference game before Big 12 play, which begins on Sunday against Houston. And I think the Arkansas game, you could say that was played like a Big 12 game, okay? Because it's on the road, a little bit of a hostile environment. You didn't get the calls that you're always looking for. Had a lot of traveling calls for whatever reason. But this Lamar game, you can't lose focus because you don't want to lose a game going into the conference season, and you want to have 11 wins and pile up as many wins as you can because you desperately want to get into postseason play.
Yeah, and then conference play, as Chuck mentioned, comes up really quick here. Next Sunday, you guys will see the Lady Raiders take on Houston. Lady Raiders last year against the Cougars won both of their games against them. That was 2 of their 5 conference wins. So far this year, Houston 3-7, not off to a good start at all. They were picked to finish last in the conference. So this is definitely one on Sunday at home that you got to get.
You got to get this one. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get to 9-9 or 8-10 or whatever your number is in the Big 12. I mean, I'm sure they would tell you, hey, we want to be 10-8 or we want to be 12-6 or whatever. Well, you got to beat Houston at least once, and you certainly got to beat them at home. But you really need to beat them both at home and on the road as well.
Yeah, and you want to get a conference play started on the right foot and all that good stuff. So.
Because then you'll have a break. You'll go from the 22nd of December, and you won't play again until January the 1st, which is kind of odd. And I'm sure they're going to say, well, we're going to give the girls a chance to get home, go to Christmas, da-da-da-da-da. And then they'll have some practice time. And Coach Gerlich loves to practice her team, loves to drill her team, and feels like that's a way for them to get better.
All right, so 2 questions that I have for you as we get ready to start conference play. At this point, Chuck, if I were to ask you, what have we learned about the Lady Raiders so far?
The depth that they talked about is true, okay? In your ability, I think, to have players come in and pick each other up, I think is good. I think, because we've seen Blacklock come in and scoring double figures. We've seen now, Kyla Freelon. We know what she can do from her previous years here. I feel like Jalen Bristow is, just a raw talent that you're just going to see develop more and more every year. Logan Johnson continues to get tough. If Logan could just kind of hit some of the shots that are the easy ones because she's tough as nails and is not afraid to challenge anybody and not afraid to go at anybody.
Both ends.
And I think just getting some winning underneath them makes them feel maybe a little bit better. And I think that's a real coachable team. I think it's a smart basketball team.
All right, and if there are 2 things that you felt like this team needs to get better at right now, what are they?
Man, shooting the 3 ball, because you only took 1 shot from beyond the arc yesterday or Sunday in Fayetteville, and you were like 2 of 11. So
in the second half.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you need to shoot the ball from 3 better. And then the other thing that just is driving me crazy right now, Jamie, is your ability to make shots in the paint. Because for whatever reason, that when you get like 2 feet away, it's become almost impossible to hit a shot. And we had a couple air balls yesterday and Sunday in Fayetteville in the paint, and just if they use the backboard, it's kind of too hard. And I think Maya finally got into a rhythm on Sunday where the ball was going off the glass a little slower for it, a little smoother for it, as opposed to just banging it up there and it just goes everywhere. So if you could just improve and you'd have won the game against SMU if you'd have shot the ball better in the paint.
Yeah, no question. No doubt about it. Still a good week for the Lady Raiders. Again, they challenged themselves with 2 road games. You like to see that heading into conference play because it's going to get tougher.
Absolutely. And the first trip out, and don't really know a whole lot yet about Arizona State, but I do know this. It's a 2-city trip, so they're going to go from Tempe, Arizona on New Year's Day to Manhattan, Kansas, and play there on Saturday. And K-State is one of the toughest teams in the conference. They've got a big girl inside in Aoka Lee, and they expect great things. And that would be a very, very awesome victory if you could get. It would be massive if you could get one there. If you could split that road trip, they'd probably take it right now.
Yeah, no doubt. So this week we'll stick with worrying about Lamar in Houston.
Sure, I understand. Only worry about the games that are right in front of you. I understand.
That's exactly right. All right, that's been this week's edition of the Lady Raider Report. Stay tuned all season long to doubleTSportsNetwork.com for more shows. Thanks for joining us today.